Welcome. We are opening up the files today on a film that is, it's just fundamentally woven into the cultural tapestry of the 20th century. The 1964 Walt Disney production, Mary Poppins. Now, we're not here to discuss the basic story, the kite flying or the concept of the magical nanny who arrives on the wind. We all know that narrative.
Exactly. We've been provided with a substantial set of sources that let us move past the plot entirely and really examine the mechanics of its creation, its revolutionary technology, and its just astonishing influence.
Right.
Our mission here is to understand how this movie was not just a hit, but a financial and artistic cornerstone that really fundamentally redefined the Walt Disney Company.
And when you analyze the documents, you realize this isn't just a beloved musical. It's a massive historical artifact.
It really is.
One that our sources confirm is widely considered Walt Disney's crowning achievement.
Yeah.
And to truly grasp that monumental status, we have to start where great stories so often do, with a massive, protracted, and incredibly fraught creative struggle that spanned decades.
It's impossible to appreciate the final product without understanding the sheer resistance Disney faced in simply getting the project greenlit. This is a massive Hollywood power struggle masquerading as a gentle family film.
Okay, let's unpack this history then. This wasn't a standard negotiation.
Got it all.
It was a decades-long war of creative wills between, the ultimate showman, Walt Disney, and the fiercely protective author, P.L. Travers.
That's absolutely the core conflict. Travers, who created the Mary Poppins book series, had incredibly firm beliefs about her character.
She saw her in a very specific way.
A very specific way. She saw her as a figure of subtle, almost unsettling magic and literary integrity. And she viewed the spectacle-driven world of Hollywood, and particularly Disney's penchant for animation and broad sentimentality, as an existential threat to her work.
What's so fascinating is the sheer commitment Disney demonstrated. His efforts to acquire the film rights started incredibly early. We're talking as far back as 1938. What drove that persistence for over 20 years?
Well, the initial motivation was deeply personal, which elevates this whole saga from just a typical business deal into really a personal quest.
It's his family.
It was. Disney's two daughters, Diane and Sharon, they absolutely adored the books, and they made their father promise as early as the late 1930s that he would eventually adapt them for the screen.
But Travers just kept saying no.
She repeatedly refused his overtures for over 2 decades.
Her skepticism in context, it wasn't unfounded. While Disney was a titan in animation, especially after the success of Snow White and Pinocchio,
Sure.
he had yet to produce a major, highly successful live-action work that demonstrated the kind of nuance Travers demanded.
Precisely. Her core argument was that she did not believe a film version, especially one that would, inevitably dilute the character for a broader audience, could do justice to her original, more austere literary work.
And the documents showed Disney was just relentless.
He was. He didn't just send letters or lawyers. He personally traveled across the Atlantic to her home in Chelsea, London, specifically to try and convince her that he would treat her property with respect and, with magic.
That level of personal campaigning is extraordinary for a studio head of his stature. So the rights were finally secured in 1961.
Over 20 years later.
Over 20 years after he first promised his daughters. But that agreement came with this massive caveat that defined the entire production.
A huge one. Travers demanded, and she obtained, absolute script approval rights.
And that detail is key.
It's everything. She sold the property, but she essentially kept the creative keys to the kingdom. This meant that every line of dialogue, every major plot point, every creative direction had to pass her scrutiny.
Which inevitably led to friction.
Constant friction. The development process, even after the rights were secured, took 2 more years just for pre-production and for the music creation.
And the setting was changed early on, right? At the suggestion of the composers, the Sherman Brothers. The books were set around the 1930s.
But they moved the film to the Edwardian era.
A brilliant move.
They did. And that proved to be a brilliant decision that Travers actually seemed to approve of, at least initially. The Edwardian setting, around 1910, it provided this nostalgic, visually distinct backdrop, a time of rigid social expectations that was just ripe for Mary Poppins to disrupt.
It gave it that whole aesthetic foundation.
For the costumes, the set design, everything that followed.
Despite the initial agreement, though, Travers was frequently on set as an advisor, or, as the documents more accurately label her, a consultant.
Right.
And her dissatisfaction was palpable and very well documented. What were her main enduring complaints?
Her objections were, they were threefold, and they were absolute. First and foremost, she deeply disapproved of the fundamental change in Mary Poppins' character.
She thought she was too nice.
Exactly. She felt that the screen version diluted the nanny's harsher, more mysterious, and frankly more pompous character aspects that you find in her books. Julie Andrews' Mary Poppins, while she's firm, she radiates this warmth.
And Travers wanted someone colder.
A colder, more enigmatic figure. That was her vision.
And second, she was just appalled by the use of animation.
Appalled is the right word. She viewed the animated sequences, like the Jolly Holiday sequence, not as spectacle, but as a juvenile gimmick that undermined the literary quality of the story.
And that ties into her third major complaint, the music.
Yes, the music. She wanted the soundtrack to feature existing known standards from the Edwardian period.
Why that specifically?
She believed that pre-existing period music would ground the film in authentic British culture and history. She feared the original songs would turn it into just another standard, ephemeral Hollywood fantasy.
That Disney pushed back hard on the music, right? The Sherman Brothers songs are what made the film immortal.
Absolutely. And Disney ultimately overruled her preference for period music. He exercised a specific contract stipulation that cited his final cut privilege on the finished film.
The crucial moment.
A crucial test of will, and Disney won. He had faith in the Sherman Brothers' ability to write songs that sounded like Edwardian music hall while still being uniquely catchy.
The intensity of this collaboration, or rather this conflict, it became legendary. So much so that the tension between Travers and Disney during the development was later fictionalized in the 2013 Disney film Saving Mr. Banks.
That film really highlighted the emotional stakes involved, showing how a creative collaboration turned into an almost adversarial relationship. But what's fascinating is that the conflict didn't end when the film premiered.
It defined everything that came after.
It defined every subsequent decision regarding her property.
She never reconciled with the outcome.
No. The documents make it very clear. Travers never agreed to any further Poppins adaptations by Disney. She felt profoundly uneasy with the studio's treatment of her character and felt personally marginalized during the 1964 production process.
And her dislike was so enduring.
So enduring that when producer Cameron Mackintosh approached her about developing a stage musical in the 1990s, she only agreed on two extremely strict conditions.
What were they?
First, the production must use English-born writers, and second, no one who was directly involved in the 1964 film adaptation could be part of the stage production team.
Wow. That condition is a direct snub to the Sherman Brothers and the entire original creative team.
It absolutely is.
That enduring tension is the ultimate case study in the deep clash between rigid authorial integrity and the broad commercial demands of a massive Hollywood studio adaptation.
It reveals the deep philosophical gap between the two. Travers saw her work as an intimate psychological exploration, while Disney saw it as the perfect foundation for cinematic spectacle and universal joy. The final film is the result of that tension, a compromise that one party considered a masterpiece.
And the other considered a betrayal. That creative friction clearly powered the final product. But let's shift our attention now to the human engine of the film, the casting. The choices made for Mary Poppins and Bert were just absolutely critical to the film's massive worldwide reception. Let's start with Julie Andrews.
Andrews' casting is the stuff of Hollywood legend, and it's rooted in professional disappointment.
Right.
This was, incredibly, her feature film debut. She was offered the prime role of Mary Poppins directly after being publicly and very famously passed over for the film adaptation of My Fair Lady,
A role she had originated and dominated on Broadway.
and Audrey Hepburn received the role instead.
That context is vital. Disney approached her at a point when she was vulnerable yet incredibly popular, turning what was a perceived professional slight into the greatest opportunity of her career. And Disney was so determined to have her that he was willing to accommodate a major personal event.
Yes. When Disney offered her the role, she was about 3 months pregnant, and the sources reveal that Disney showed immense commitment to securing her. He assured her that the studio was prepared to postpone the filming schedule entirely until she'd given birth and was ready to work.
Which just demonstrates how indispensable they considered her to be for the film's success.
Absolutely.
And despite Disney's conviction, P.L. Travers reportedly remained unconvinced, adding both Andrews and Dick Van Dyke to her list of artistic grievances.
She did. Travers reportedly felt both were wrong for the parts. Andrews was too gentle, and Van Dyke was simply not English enough.
But the box office and the critics quickly proved her wrong about Andrews.
They did. And the ironies of Hollywood history are often sharp. Julie Andrews went on to win the Best Actress Academy Award for Mary Poppins and the Best Actress Golden Globe,
Beating Hepburn.
triumphing over Audrey Hepburn, who wasn't even nominated for her role in My Fair Lady.
It's a fantastic twist of fate, and it launched Andrews' screen career into the stratosphere. So next we have the leading man, Dick Van Dyke, who played Bert, the lovable jack-of-all-trades. He was cast based on the strength of his immensely popular television work.
Van Dyke was a massive star because of the Dick Van Dyke Show, and Disney saw his potential for physical comedy and his charm. But what's often forgotten is his dual role.
Right, he wasn't just Bert.
He played the charming, dancing chimney sweep Bert, but he also lobbied heavily to play the ancient, crusty bank director, Mr. Dawes Sr.
Initially, they felt he was too young for that elderly role, so how did he convince them?
He was tenacious. He persuaded Disney after undergoing a screen test, using heavy prosthetics and intricate makeup to age himself convincingly.
And there's that fantastic piece of production trivia that often gets missed.
The anagram, yes.
Wow.
His second role as Mr. Dawes Sr. was originally credited in the film under the pseudonym Navkid Keed.
Which you have to unscramble.
It is an intentional anagram that only unscrambles to reveal Dick Van Dyke in the final end titles. It adds this subtle, humorous layer for those paying close attention.
It speaks to the depth of the casting commitment, that they were creating multiple personas with their leads. And speaking of personas, the voice work for this film was incredibly dense, involving the principal actors in numerous small roles.
It was a true soundscape production. David Tomlinson, who played the stern Mr. Banks, was extremely versatile. We found a fascinating note on this. He provided the voice for Mary Poppins' talking parrot Umbrella,
No way.
which required a unique, clipped vocal style. He also voiced Admiral Boom's first mate, Mr. Binnacle, and several other voiceover parts in the animated sequences, including a penguin waiter and a jockey.
Even Julie Andrews got in on the extra voice roles.
She did. She provided the beautiful, high-pitched whistling harmony for the robin, Dorothy's song A Spoonful of Sugar.
Oh, I remember that.
And she was also credited as one of the background Pearly singers during the immense supercalifragilisticexpialidocious number. It's a testament to the efficient use of their talent.
And we have to mention Marni Nixon.
The famous ghost singer of Hollywood.
Exactly.
Marni Nixon was renowned for dubbing the singing voices of actresses with substandard vocal skills, famously for Deborah Kerr in The King and I, and ironically, for Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady.
Which brings it all full circle.
It does. In Mary Poppins, she voiced all the famous Cockney geese during the Jolly Holiday animated sequence. It's a wonderful connection that links the film's cast right back to that great My Fair Lady ridery.
All of this voice talent brings us inevitably to the single most debated element of the performance. Dick Van Dyke's attempt at the Cockney accent for Bert. It has achieved legendary status.
Yes.
Perhaps for all the wrong reasons.
It has. While Van Dyke is globally adored for his physical performance and his charm, his accent is nearly universally considered one of the poorest in cinematic history.
That's a strong claim.
The sources note that it was ranked as the #2 worst film accent in a 2003 Empire magazine poll. It's less a Cockney accent and more a collection of sounds.
He had coaching from J. Pat O'Malley, an English character actor.
Huh.
So if they knew it was struggling, why didn't Disney just hire Marni Nixon or another voice actor to redub him, or even hire a dialect coach with more credibility? What does the source material suggest about why this flaw was kept?
That raises a critical question about the priorities of the production. While Van Dyke later joked that his coach didn't do an accent any better than I did, the decision to keep it suggests two things.
Okay.
First, Disney's commitment was primarily to Van Dyke's unique on-screen presence, his charm, his dancing, his comedic energy. They may have prioritized the overall performance over absolute phonetic accuracy, especially for an American audience less tuned to the nuances of a Cockney dialect.
It also suggests that in 1964, dialect accuracy just wasn't the stringent cultural requirement it became later.
Precisely. It was a secondary concern. The character of Bert needed to feel authentic to the working-class London streets, and Van Dyke's charisma was enough to carry that feeling, even if the accent itself was technically atrocious.
And this flaw has become so ingrained in the film's legacy that it's almost a beloved joke now.
It absolutely has. Van Dyke, decades later, acknowledged it himself, which has cemented the anecdote. In 2017, when he received the BAFTA Award for Television Excellence, he used his acceptance speech to publicly apologize to the British audience for inflicting on them the most atrocious Cockney accent in the history of cinema.
It's a great moment of humorous humility that shows the respect he has for the performance, even recognizing its famous imperfection.
And the BAFTA executive's witty response noting they looked forward to his acceptance speech in whatever accent he chose, and adding they had no doubt it will be supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It just demonstrates how the flaw itself has become part of the film's charm and legacy, recognized by both sides of the Atlantic.
Moving on from the performances, we need to focus on the unsung hero of this film, the groundbreaking technology that made those animated sequences possible. This film, though set entirely in London, was shot entirely in California.
That's right. All the exterior shots, all the rooftop sequences, all the street scenes, they were shot entirely on sound stages at the Walt Disney Studios in Burbank, California, against elaborate painted London backgrounds.
So the filming itself was relatively fast.
Relatively. It only ran from May to September of 1963. But here's the key metric. The subsequent post-production and animation process took a staggering 11 months.
And that extended post-production time directly reflects the technical complexity of combining live-action actors with animated characters, like in the scenes with Bert dancing with the animated penguins.
Correct.
They utilize a technique called the sodium vapor process. This is where the true innovation lies, and we need to understand exactly how this worked.
This is a sophisticated piece of mid-century optical engineering. Most people are familiar with the modern green screen or blue screen process, where a single color is used to key out the background. But in the 1960s, early blue screen technology often suffered from what's called color spill. That means the blue light would reflect onto the actors, creating a faint blue halo around them and making the matte, the outline used to combine the images, kind of fuzzy.
So how did the sodium vapor process solve that problem? Let's break it down for the listener who might not be technically minded.
Think of it this way. Instead of using a blue or green screen, the actors were placed in front of a white screen. And that screen was intensely lit by powerful sodium vapor lamps.
And these lights are special.
Very special. They emit an incredibly narrow spectrum of yellow light, a very distinct, pure frequency.
And the magic happened inside the camera itself.
Exactly. The camera used for this process was highly specialized. It was fitted with an optical prism. As the film was being shot, this prism was precisely engineered to divert that specific yellow light frequency onto a separate reel of film entirely.
So the other light didn't go there.
All the other light, the light reflecting off the actors, their costumes, the props that continued onto the main film reel.
So essentially they had 3 separate films running at once.
Yeah.
The main image, the animated background, and this third reel that was just a black and white silhouette created purely by the sodium vapor light.
That's a perfect analogy. That third segregated film reel was the crucial element. It created a highly accurate matte, which is the exact silhouette or mask of the live-action actor, cleanly separating the foreground from the background with exceptional precision.
And what made it so precise?
The key insight is that because the yellow sodium light frequency is so specific, the prism could filter it with near-perfect accuracy, which eliminated that annoying color spill you got with early blue screen techniques.
And the practical result of that extreme accuracy was a level of detail that was just impossible at the time.
The sources cite a specific detail to illustrate this: the partially transparent veil of Mary Poppins' costume. In previous optical printing, that veil would have been lost or it would have appeared opaque.
But not here.
But because of the sodium vapor process's clean matte, the animated background was able to show through the delicate fibers of the veil seamlessly, making the effect utterly convincing. It was truly groundbreaking.
Which is why Mary Poppins won the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects in 1965 for this very innovation.
It is.
Moving to the auditory technical achievements, the musical score is what makes the film immortal. The Sherman Brothers had a huge challenge here. They had to create songs that satisfied Disney's desire for spectacle while sounding authentic enough to satisfy Travers' Edwardian period aesthetic.
The Sherman Brothers, Richard M. Sherman and Robert B. Sherman, they achieved a monumental feat. They drew deep inspiration from Edwardian British music hall music, which is a very specific genre characterized by jaunty rhythms, clever wordplay, and often a melancholic undertone.
So that choice grounded the songs.
It grounded them in the historical period, lending them authenticity while still ensuring they were accessible and catchy for a global audience.
The commercial success of the soundtrack was immediate, and it served as a major commercial turning point for Disney's music division.
It was explosive. The original soundtrack, released by Buena Vista Records in 1964, sold millions of copies immediately. And crucially, the sources note that this success elevated it to the pivotal release for Disney's in-house record division.
It made them a powerhouse.
It established it as a commercial powerhouse capable of competing with major labels. And the songs weren't confined to the film. They became staples across the entire music industry.
It crossed over into every genre imaginable.
Exactly. They were heavily covered by established adult contemporary stars like Johnny Mathis and Louis Prima, but also adapted for novelty records. The sources mention they were covered by cartoon characters like the Chipmunks and even the Flintstones.
Which shows just how widely adopted these melodies became in popular culture immediately after release.
Instantly.
The film won the Academy Award for Best Original Song for the iconic Chim Chim Cherry, and it also won Best Original Music Score. And the longevity of the music continues to be recognized.
Indeed. Decades later, the song Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious was inducted into the Online Film and Television Association Hall of Fame. It's a confirmation that this music transcends being merely a successful film score. It's a timeless piece of global musical culture.
The success of Mary Poppins was not just critical or technological, it was a financial behemoth that literally changed the physical landscape of the Walt Disney Company. This is where the story gets really compelling.
The financial context is essential. The estimated budget for the film was significant for Disney at the time, falling between $4.4 and $6 million.
That's a lot for the 60s.
For a major live-action musical that required pioneering technical processes and massive set construction, this represented a considerable financial risk for the studio.
But the return was immediate and unprecedented. How large was that initial theatrical success?
It was absolutely monumental. In its initial theatrical run, the film earned $44 million in rentals worldwide.
Wow.
It was the highest-grossing film of 1964 in the United States, and at the time became Disney's highest-grossing film ever. Its worldwide theatrical lifetime gross eventually surpassed $103 million.
And when we focus on profitability, the source material notes that it generated an astonishing net profit of $28.5 million, making it the most profitable film of 1965.
An incredible figure.
Given the scale of Disney's operations at the time, what did that $28.5 million mean in context?
That money wasn't just profit, it was rocket fuel for the entire corporation. In the mid-1960s, Walt Disney was already dreaming of his next grand project.
The Florida Project.
A massive second theme park on the East Coast. He needed colossal amounts of liquid capital, and he needed it immediately to secretly purchase the necessary land and fund the initial construction phases.
And here's the truly unique connection. The creation of Mary Poppins directly enabled the construction of Walt Disney World.
That is the ultimate legacy of the film's financial success. Walt Disney used the massive, immediate cash flow generated by Mary Poppins to finalize the purchase of tens of thousands of acres of land in Central Florida.
And he had to do it in secret.
He needed to buy the land in secret, using shell corporations to keep the price down, which required massive fast financing. The success of Mary Poppins solved that immediate critical need and financed the subsequent initial construction of the entire Walt Disney World resort.
So the magic of Mary Poppins literally paid for the Magic Kingdom's existence. That is a foundational piece of corporate history. And the connection is marked in the parks even today, correct?
It is. It's a subtle, constant nod to its financial salvation. The safety system on all Disney monorails, which are a defining feature of the resort, is physically marked MEPO. That stands specifically for Mary Poppins. Furthermore, the steam locomotives used on the Walt Disney World Railroad are fitted with a boiler safety device that also carries the MAPO designation. It's a quiet, internal tribute to the film that saved the day financially.
Beyond the box office, the critical reception at the time was almost universally ecstatic.
Universal critical acclaim. Variety praised its elaborate musical sequences and singled out the star power of Andrews and Van Dyke. The film was described as an instant classic.
And the New York Times.
The New York Times critic Bosley Crowther called it a most wonderful, cheering movie, noting how successfully it blended humor, music, and the magical elements.
And the modern critical standing confirms that immediate assessment.
It currently holds a 97% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, with the consensus celebrating its amazing special effects, catchy songs, and Julie Andrews' legendary performance.
It was a triumph.
A triumph of synchronized creative and technical effort. One critic summarized its impact by noting that Disney was clearly the leader in combining animation and live action, mixing truly marvelous slapsticks with real-life action.
We should acknowledge, though, that the creative compromises made to achieve this spectacle did attract some critique, even at the time.
That context is important for balance. Anne Guerin of Life magazine, mirroring Travers' concerns, felt that the creative departures from the novel were excessive.
What did she single out?
She specifically criticized sequences like Jolly Holiday, suggesting they went a long way, preferring more restraint and fidelity to the original text. She concluded that a little bit went a long way, suggesting that with a little less improvement on the original, the film's many charms would have been better served.
Despite those minor notes of dissent, the sheer volume of accolades remains staggering. It received a total of 13 Academy Award nominations.
Which remains a record for any film released by Walt Disney Studios.
And it converted 5 of those nominations into wins, rewarding every aspect of the production. Best Actress for Julie Andrews, Best Film Editing, Best Original Music Score, Best Original Song for Chim Chim Cherry, and, critically, Best Visual Effects for that pioneering sodium vapor process.
A clean sweep of the major technical and artistic awards.
The film's status has only grown over time. It remains a fixture in institutional memory and continues to influence popular culture, proving that its impact goes far beyond the box office receipts of the 1960s.
Its institutional standing is absolutely secured. As we've noted, it is widely considered Walt Disney's crowning achievement. But the significance of that term is amplified by the fact that it was the only Disney film to receive a Best Picture Academy Award nomination during Walt Disney's lifetime.
That makes it unique in his entire body of work. And its preservation status reflects that historical importance.
In 2013, the Library of Congress selected it for preservation in the United States National Film Registry, designating it as culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
It's officially part of American history.
And furthermore, the American Film Institute recognizes the enduring power of its music, listing Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious at number 36 on its list of 100 years, 100 songs, and the film itself ranks number 6 on AFI's 100 Years of Musicals list.
The film also maintains a continuous presence in media, being re-released several times and constantly featured on television.
It was re-released theatrically in both 1973 and 1980. And more recently, the ABC television network, which holds the broadcast rights, aired a 2020 special in November 2025 titled The Untold Story of Mary Poppins.
So there's still a continuous appetite for this material.
Absolutely. The special featured Dick Van Dyke, Lin-Manuel Miranda, and insights from Walt Disney's own grandchildren.
And Dick Van Dyke's personal milestones continue to bring the film back into the spotlight.
Yes. That same year, in December 2025, the film made its long-awaited debut on Turner Classic Movies, or TCM, specifically to commemorate Dick Van Dyke turning 100 years old. This just shows the level of respect major networks hold for the film and its enduring star.
And the legacy was expanded in 2018 with the official sequel, Mary Poppins Returns.
The sequel, set 25 years after the original, featured Emily Blunt taking over the title role and Lin-Manuel Miranda co-starring, but it was careful to honor the original's history.
How so?
The sources reveal that Dick Van Dyke returned to play Mr. Dawes Jr., the director's son, essentially the same character as Mr. Dawes Sr. from the original film, albeit 54 years later.
That's a wonderful touch.
And Karen Dautrice, who played Jane Banks in the 1964 film, also made a cameo appearance, tying the two productions together.
Beyond the official follow-ups, Mary Poppins has been deeply woven into the fabric of popular culture through constant referencing and parody, showing its universal recognition.
It's pervasive. You see immediate references in classic TV, like multiple episodes of Gilligan's Island and The Odd Couple. One of the most famous modern references comes from the Marvel Universe.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
In Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, where Peter Quill compares Yondu Udonta to the character, leading to that highly quoted line, "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all."
And the ultimate sign of cultural saturation, an entire Simpsons episode dedicated to parodying it.
The episode Simpsoncalifragilisticexpiala, Annoyed Grunt, Vicious, introduced the parody character, Sherry Bobbins, and spoofed several classic songs, including the core themes of The Perfect Nanny and Feed the Birds.
It just shows the film's music and imagery are instantly recognizable decades later.
Completely.
We found a fascinating note, too, regarding Dick Van Dyke's original TV show, providing an early internal wink about the role.
Indeed. An episode of The Dick Van Dyke Show aired in October 1963, which was after Mary Poppins finished filming but before its 1964 premiere. In that episode, a character brainstorms a comedic concept about a Cockney chimney sweep who is getting so fat he can't get down the chimney.
A clear, knowing nod to those behind the scenes about his upcoming, iconic, and controversially accented role.
Exactly.
Finally, we must address a very significant recent development that proves this film is still subject to continuous cultural reevaluation.
This action came in February 2024 from the British Board of Film Classification, the BBFC. After 6 decades, the BBFC raised the age rating of Mary Poppins from U for Universal to PG for parental guidance.
That is a massive change for such a widely accepted family classic. What was the specific reason for this reclassification?
The reason cited was the use of discriminatory language. This specifically refers to a scene where Admiral Boom uses the word Hottentot to refer to the dancing chimney sweeps during the rooftop sequence.
And the BBFC's reasoning.
Their determination was that, while the context was not intentionally malicious, the word itself is dated, offensive, and discriminatory against certain groups. This action demonstrates that even a foundational cinematic masterpiece is continuously scrutinized, and its cultural status is always evolving in response to modern standards and social consciousness.
That context gives the film so much more weight than just the music or the animation. It leaves us with a truly provocative question about how we view classics in the modern era.
We have analyzed this film as a monumental artifact, a technical breakthrough, a financial savior for the Disney empire, and a cultural touchstone. Yet, when we consider P.L. Travers' fierce conviction that the film did a fundamental disservice to her character, and the fact that decades later external cultural bodies are intervening, as seen with the recent reclassification due to language, it forces a reconciliation.
The challenge for the knowledgeable viewer is this. How do we balance celebrating the undeniable artistry, the magic of the sodium vapor process, and the musical genius of the Sherman Brothers, with simultaneously recognizing the creative compromises that alienated its author and acknowledging the dated elements that now clash with modern cultural evolution?
It is the challenge of appreciating historical art while acknowledging the shifting sands of the world that surrounds it.
Thanks for listening.